Goodness gracious.
Hi.
Y'all doing okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Ted James, State Representative here in Baton Rouge, District 101. As you guys know, it's been a tough couple months here in Baton Rouge dealing with flood recovery. But as we've all stated from day one, we've had so many tremendous organizations on the ground aiding in our recovery. And today we get an opportunity to discuss some of the great work that has been going on in our community and will continue in our community. Bodies like the Restore Louisiana Task Force that was formed by the governor will definitely lead the way in programs and designing certain programs that will help us in our recovery, focusing on a lot of our long-term solutions and especially paying close attention to some of those communities that sometimes are left out, like renters, and we're going to make sure that we do a yeoman's job to support the organizations to my right and all of their community efforts. Today, we've been able to speak with leaders from the Delta Development Corporation as well as the Scotlandville Community Development Corporation. These great groups have been doing great work in our community, but they've also stepped up post the flood here in Baton Rouge. It is very exciting to have such a strong partner like the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center, who wanted to come in and support in a huge way and aid some of the programs and organizations that are already on the ground here in Baton Rouge. For example, there's a partnership with the East Baton Rouge Council on Aging, and with the little increased capacity that they were able to provide through the Greater New Orleans Housing Center, they will assist seniors with housing counseling as well as navigating disaster relief programs. This important opportunity that all of these organizations are working in our community to make sure that we put the learn lessons from past disasters, and we're going to put those behind us and move our community forward. I'll tell you that my district was severely impacted, and the next speaker, my district is included in her senatorial district, so she shares a lot of the same commitment to rebuilding our community, and she's worked tirelessly with a lot of these organizations that we're here to talk about today. So I'll bring up State Senator Regina Barrow.
Thank you, Ted, and good afternoon, everyone. And again, my name is Regina Barrow, State Senator for District 15. And unfortunately, almost 90% of my district was impacted by the Great Flood of 2016, starting at the borders of Zachary, going all the way to the end of my district, right before you go into Denham Springs. But today is a good day. I'm very happy. And look at these great recipients. Don't they look wonderful? We are so happy to see all of you here today. And the last couple of months have been tough. We have actually had many challenges over the last couple of months, but I tell you one thing, we are a resilient people. And with that, I know that the recovery effort, while it's going to be long, I know that at the end of the day, it's going to be successful. Part of the path of ensuring that our recovery efforts are a success is making sure that the economic recovery is a part of it. And the way that we do that is by making sure that our local residents are fully engaged and participating in the economic rebuilding of our communities. From homeowners that are struggling to rebuild, to our renters who are still displaced, for our elderly and our special need populations who may be facing a real tough time. It is real important that we have organizations such as these who have been already working on the ground, trying to make sure that there are no gaps and trying to deliver the services that they need. As we know, disasters do not discriminate. But from this experience, sometimes the most vulnerable population are left behind. And that's why it's important that we have the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Center that has agreed to partner with all of these agencies to give them a lit extra boost to continue to do the work that they've already been doing in our community. And I thank them for that. I'm excited to work with Interdenominational Faith Assembly, one of the agencies in my district that have already opened up a recovery redistribution center, a distribution center in the district, providing much needed goods to the community. And let me tell you, They open on Sunday, and every day it has been a constant flow of people coming in to get much needed goods, and it lets you know how great the need is in the community. As we continue to partner with Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Center and with all of these organizations, as the state senator for this area, I want you to know how grateful and appreciative I am for what you have already been doing and what you are committed to continue to do to help us in state government do a more effective job in serving our community, because we are committed to doing that. I look forward to continue to work with our great governor, who has shown wonderful leadership through the many crises we've had from the beginning of the year through now, without wavering, as well as with the agencies who have been on the ground, been the boots on the ground, providing the services to many of our citizens recover. And we thank you for that. God bless you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kashana Hill, and I'm Executive Director of the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center. Before I start my remarks, I would just like to thank Representative James and Senator Barrow for the hard work that you do every day on behalf of your constituents. Thank you so much. And Governor Edwards, of course, thank you for all of your courageous and unwavering leadership and hard work, and also for hosting us here today. We are so very grateful for your commitment to ensuring that vulnerable populations who are normally left behind in disaster will be able to rebuild and return to their communities. The Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center is a statewide private civil rights organization with offices in New Orleans. Our mission is to eradicate housing discrimination throughout the state. At the Fair Housing Action Center, we have firsthand experience with the barriers to recovery that communities, particularly low-income and vulnerable communities, face in the aftermath of disaster. After Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, the Fair Housing Center worked to provide thousands of clients with necessary resources to assist them with relief and recovery efforts. Our home ownership protection program that still goes strong today helped homeowners navigate the road home rebuilding program in the face of those disasters. We also helped renters and HUD clients get back to their homes and their communities. And so with that past experience in mind, within days after the flooding that affected this community in August, we wanted to make sure that we could do our part to help these communities recover and rebuild. And so we began to work immediately to get these booster grants out the door to assist these organizations who are already doing necessary work. We wanted to make sure that we could do our part to support them in the efforts that they have been engaged in. We've worked with the Mid-City Redevelopment Alliance and the Greater King David Baptist Church and the Capital Area Alliance for the Homeless, among other organizations. They are all doing very incredible and necessary work. I'd also like to take a moment to highlight the work of the Urban Restoration Enhancement Corporation. They are continuing to transform communities by investing in people and restoring neighborhoods. In partnership with the Fair Housing Action Center, UREC will be working to provide one-on-one community case management services to help flood survivors get back on their feet. We are so grateful for the work of UREC and all of these organizations represented here today, and we are thankful for the opportunity to support that work. And with that, I would like to bring up Governor Edwards.
Thank you. Kashana, I want to thank you and all the folks at the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center and all of our partners here today. This is an example of how you can take a relatively small amount of money and make a tremendous difference. There are not any grants that exceed $15,000. But by taking this money and spreading it out and giving it to these partners that we have who are already engaged in this work, we're going to see a tremendous amount of help delivered across South Louisiana. So I want to thank all of you for being here, Representative James and Senator Barrow as well. It's always good to stand up and have some good news. And as was mentioned earlier, we've had more than our fair share of challenges. But I have said throughout that despite our challenges, Louisiana's best days are ahead of us, and I continue to be inspired by the way Louisianans respond to one another and serve as neighbor to one another, not as in next door neighbor, but as in the neighbor we're called to be in Luke chapter 10. This is another example of that. And I've also said that when the public dollar is at issue, There are always hoops to go through and hurdles to go over, and it slows the responsiveness sometimes. And so we do rely on the private sector. We rely on the faith-based community. We rely on the nonprofit organizations in order to deliver help with a little more flexibility and oftentimes with more speed. I think you're seeing some of that today. So I want to say that obviously we are proud to be here today to participate in this announcement. And at the state level, we remain focused on the recovery programs to meet the needs of homeowners, renters, and all of our impacted residents. As I said many times, we are going to be months and months fully recovering, but we can't be months and months focused on it, and before we focus on it, I should say. And that's why it's good to have these announcements like this today. The flood of August 2016 was historic. There are many people who don't know the numbers, but the climatologists, the meteorologists, they believe 7 trillion gallons of rain fell in about 48 hours across South Louisiana. And to put that into perspective, because that number is so big that we can't comprehend it, it takes the Mississippi River 18 days to discharge that much water into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the level of the disaster that we are trying to recover from. And that's why this assistance is so important, because we have people who are struggling. This chapter in our history is not over. It remains active and ongoing, and we have to remain focused. We will be doing what we have to do, working with our congressional delegation, working with the Obama administration, working with the next presidential administration to make sure that we do what is necessary to fully recover, not just recover, but to actually to put ourselves in a better position going forward to deal with these types of disasters by building a more resilient Louisiana. So it's essential that we learn from our past disasters to keep our people in the communities that they love, and make sure that we have the ability to empower people to help themselves, and that's what this is all about. We know from experience that if programs aren't designed to meet the needs of the most vulnerable populations, those are the people who will be left behind. And that's why it's so important that we have these organizations, these partners, who all they do is serve the most vulnerable populations. And so I want to thank them again. We welcome the strong leadership and partnership of organizations like the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center and the many partners who've been so dedicated to rebuilding the communities that they serve. So obviously, to wrap it up, this is a very positive announcement as we continue to recover. And I want to thank them again for all of the hard and good work that they're doing serving this vulnerable population. And with that, I am happy to take questions. And there are none. So God bless all of you, and I want to thank you all so much for what you're doing. Thank you. I think I'll be able to squeeze down.